You probably think depression is a modern disease, a side effect of screens, cities, and too much comfort. But here's the thing. Thousands of years ago, ancient humans felt it too, and it kept them alive. Picture a stick figure by a fire. Shoulders down, eyes on the flames. No therapy, no diagnosis, no words. But the brain inside that skull is basically our brain. Same wiring, same chemicals, same capacity to think. Turns out, the answer to whether they got depressed actually changes what depression even means to us today. Let's slow down and get the words right, because sadness and depression are not the same thing at all. Sadness is a signal. You lose something, you feel it, and then you move on with your life. Low mood is longer, heavier, but still tied to something real in front of you right now. Depression is different. Depression is when the signal gets stuck and just refuses to let you go. When the darkness stops pointing at anything specific and just stays there, quietly, day after day after day. When I say ancient humans, I don't mean cavemen in a cartoon. I mean people basically like us, Homo sapiens, going back about 300,000 years. Same skull shape, same nervous system, same brain volume. They laughed, they mourned, they planned tomorrow, they dreamed at night, they loved, they lost, they grieved deeply. We tend to talk about depression like it's a bug in modern software, appearing with electricity and email. But the hardware is old, very old. Our brain today is basically their brain from long ago too. If our brain can do this, the capacity was already there, running quietly thousands of years ago too. If you find this stuff interesting, subscribe. I explain things that I genuinely find interesting to me. Here's the frame I want you to hold. Our brain hasn't really changed, but our world absolutely has. Almost everything about how we live now, cities, screens, jobs, alarms, mortgages, is brand new by evolutionary standards. Here's the thing. Their world had one difference from ours, and it shaped what a low mood really did. Let's poke at a common belief. A lot of people imagine ancient life as simple, and simple as happy. No boss, no taxes, no traffic, just fresh air, a good spear, and nothing much to worry about. Except that's a fantasy. Hunter-gatherer life was many things, but gentle was really never one of them. Ancient humans faced constant loss. A hunt failed, and suddenly the whole group went hungry that night. A cousin got infected from a small cat and died in a week. A child didn't survive the winter. A pregnancy ended in silence. A parent got mauled by a predator and simply never came home again. Imagine you're a person in that world. You'd buried more people by age 20 than most bury by 50. You felt the ache of a missing face across the fire more times than you can count. That is not a happy, simple life. That is grief on a schedule, over and over again. And turns out, scientists found that these mood dips are ancient, not modern, much older than we assume. When researchers study depression, neurotransmitters, stress hormones, the way the body slows down, they see systems shared with mammals. This isn't an app we installed. It's older than farming, older than fire pits, probably older than our species. So here's the puzzle. If depression is that old and feels that bad, why did evolution keep it around? Nature isn't sentimental. If a trait sticks around for hundreds of thousands of years, it usually did something. The first answer scientists offer has a clunky name, analytical rumination hypothesis. Don't worry about the label though, the idea is simple. When something big goes wrong, your brain wants you to stop and figure out why. Not fast thinking, slow thinking. Careful, obsessive, replay-it-again thinking that turns the problem over from every angle. Low mood forces that slowdown. You lose interest in food, in sex, in company, in noise around you. You sit with the problem, you turn it over. You look for the piece you missed last time. In modern life, that looks like lying on the couch staring at the ceiling for hours on end. In ancient life, it looked like sitting by the fire, quiet, while the rest of the tribe moved around. Natural selection kept this around because sometimes it worked. A hunter who kept failing needed to think why. A parent who lost a child needed to reorganize how they moved through the world from then on. A person betrayed needed to figure out who to trust next time. Snap decisions would get you killed. Slow, painful thinking might actually save you. That's the first argument from the analytical rumination hypothesis camp. There's a second piece. Withdrawal conserves energy after failure. If your last 3 hands failed, another attempt is risky. The body pulls the plug. Rest, wait, recover. Try again when the odds shift back in your favor. Depression in that reading is a kind of forced pause. Not a malfunction at all, just a break. But one hypothesis can't explain a whole inner world. Humans aren't just problem-solving machines. Something else is happening. Here's what makes depression different from a simple mood dip. Depression needs self-awareness to fully form inside you. You need to think about yourself, to compare who you are now to who you thought you'd be. You need to project a future self and be disappointed by it in advance, before it even arrives. You need to remember a past self and grieve them. That kind of grief requires a specific mind.
Animals feel low. Animals grieve. But the full spiraling shape of depression needs a mind that watches itself. And ancient humans absolutely had that capacity. We know because they left quiet traces of it behind everywhere. Cave burials with flowers and tools placed carefully beside the body. Red ochre pressed into the dead skin. Art on stone walls made by people who wanted to leave a mark. Rituals for grief still visible today. You don't paint on a cave wall unless you imagine someone else looking at it later, long after. You don't bury a friend with their favorite tool unless you imagine them somehow still needing it there. That's a self-aware mind. The same mind that lies awake at 3 a.m. wondering if it wasted everything. Which opens a much darker possibility about the inner lives our ancestors quietly carried through those long nights. If they had the machinery for depression and constant reasons to grieve, in a world harsher than ours, then some of them almost certainly felt states that would look, from the inside, like clinical depression today. Now let's talk about the specific triggers, because this is where it actually gets interesting for our ancestors. Social exclusion from a tribe was almost a death sentence. A lone human on the savannah was simply food. You needed the group for hunting, for warmth, for childcare, and for defense against every predator around. So when someone got pushed out, for cheating, lying, or laziness, the body registered rejection as survival threat. That's why social pain still hurts. Your brain uses the same circuits for broken bones and broken bonds. Ancient humans lived inside that circuit every day. Status mattered, reputation mattered. Who trusted you was your safety net. And when that net tore, the shutdown was fast and deep, pulling your whole system into quiet retreat. Status loss triggered a depressive freeze. If you challenged a higher-ranked person and lost, going quiet became smart. Your posture dropped, your voice dropped, your appetite dropped. You basically became invisible around the tribe for a while. That looks miserable, and it was, but it kept you alive. The winner didn't need to finish the job. Winter amplified everything. Short days, cold bodies, less food, less light. The tribe pulled inward around the fire. If you were already struggling, the season pressed harder, and studies show we still carry that ancient rhythm today. Chronic pain was another weight. No painkillers, no surgery. Back goes bad at 30, you carry it forever. If a hand broke your ribs, they healed how they healed. Pain wears the mind down, slowly, quietly, constantly. Ancient humans lived inside bodies that hurt in ways most of us today can barely imagine surviving through. And there is one more piece people forget. For most of our evolution, we were prey. Big cats hunted us, bears hunted us, hyenas hunted us. Scientists sometimes call these creatures super predators, animals built to eat you. Living under that threat generation after generation shaped a fear baseline that we still carry inside us today. a jumpy nervous system, a brain that scans the dark, a body that remembers everything from before. Yet, somehow, they didn't collapse the way we sometimes do. That's the part that keeps researchers up at night. With all those triggers, loss, pain, predators, you'd expect their inner life to be one long spiral. But it doesn't really seem to have been. Something about their world quietly contained it every time. Here's the payoff. Their depression had a shape. It was acute. It was situational. It was social. Acute means it came on hard, did its job, and passed. Situational means tied to a real event, a death, a failure, a season, an injury. When the situation changed, the mood changed with it. And social means they were almost never alone inside that dark place. The group always saw it early. If someone stopped eating, the band noticed by lunchtime. Not because they were experts in mental health, because there were maybe 30 of them, and everyone was in each other's business, all day, every day. Someone sat next to them. Someone shared food. Someone told a story. Someone touched their shoulder gently. The signal got answered. Modern depression often looks nothing like that. Ours tends to be chronic, diffuse, solitary. It doesn't always point at anything specific.
It shows up on a good day for no reason and stays for months. It often finds us alone in a room where no one notices for ages. Same brain, different container. Studies show tight-knit traditional communities have lower rates of long-term depression than industrial societies. Not zero, nobody escapes sadness, but the numbers really shift when the container changes. That's data, not guessing. Uncomfortable question. If the machinery is the same and trigger patterns are ancient, then what's actually different about us? So maybe what's different isn't our brains, it's what we've built around them. Think what modern life removed. First, the social cushion. Most of us don't live in bands of 30 who know our name and history. We live in apartments. We commute alone. We eat alone more than any humans in history ever. When we sink, there's often no one within arm's reach to notice. We replaced status rituals with endless comparison. In an ancient tribe, you knew where you stood among roughly 30 people you were being compared to. Now we scroll thousands of strangers daily, most curating their best moments, and ancient brains try ranking us. We lose, over and over, to people we'll never meet. Then we took away nature and long walks. We took away shared food. We took away the fire everyone sits around at night. All our defaults disappeared. Our design assumes movement, sunlight, tribe, touch. But now they're things we have to schedule and pay for. I'm not romanticizing the past. Ancient life was harsh in ways I would not trade for. I like antibiotics. I like heating. I like being able to sit here and talk to you across a screen. But reading the design of our own minds, it's worth noticing what those minds were built to expect, and what we've quietly stopped giving them. So what would our ancestors actually think of our modern version? That's the loop I want to leave you sitting inside. Imagine you're explaining Instagram to a hunter-gatherer. You show them a small glowing rectangle and say, "Look, these are pictures of people. Thousands of them. Most of them you'll never meet. Most of them look happier and richer and more beautiful than you. You'll look at this device for hours a day, and afterwards you'll often feel worse about your own life." They would recognize the ache. Comparison, low status, feeling small in a crowd. Those are old feelings. They'd recognize the shape, but they would not recognize the trigger. Their comparison group was 30 faces, not 30,000 faces. Their crowd was people who fed them, not strangers who sold things to them. The feeling itself is ancient. The context is entirely new. That's the reframe I keep coming back to. Depression, at least a lot of it, isn't a broken feeling. It's an ancient signal. Pause, withdraw, think, be still, and wait for the situation to change. It worked when the situation would actually change eventually. It worked when the tribe would come sit with you.
It worked when the pause had an ending. Well, it stops working is when the pause has no ending, when the signal fires and nothing answers it. When your body says, slow down and reach for the group, and there is no group left to reach. When rumination has no problem to solve because the problem is just everything, quietly, humming all the time. The feeling isn't broken. The context might be. And that's why the next question matters even more now. Once you see depression as an old signal in a new world, you ask the same about other feelings, about anxiety, about boredom, about emptiness, about loneliness too. Ancient humans didn't have therapists, but they had firelight. They had shared food, familiar ants, and the constant low hum of other people breathing quietly nearby always. Some of what we now treat as symptoms, they treated as ordinary weather, because the weather always broke. If you take one thing from this, take this. When you feel low, your brain isn't malfunctioning at all.
It's running very old software, asking for very old things. Slower days. Real faces, sunlight, movement, nearby people. Being useful to someone within reach. These defaults aren't always a cure, but they're where the design starts. If you're curious how old feelings collide with new lives, subscribe. I just explain things I find interesting. There are more videos on the channel about the strange inheritance we're all quietly walking around with today. And here's the next question waiting. Did ancient humans get lonely too? Loneliness might have a weirder story. Same brain, but a different container. And the container might matter even